In this video, I'm going to show you how to get an epic drum sound without having to use a ton of samples. Take a listen to this. Now, this is relevant whether you're recording live drums in a room, a real drummer, or you're using programmed drums. The same principles still apply. Now, don't get me wrong, samples are great, and I use them all of the time. However, if you find yourself having to use lots of them, then you can run into issues, and it's usually because you did something wrong earlier on in the process. Now, the drums on this song are real live drums by an amazing session player over in Nashville called Steve Barkley. And honestly, the most important thing when you're producing any song is getting the sounds right at source. So if you're recording real drums, make sure the kit, the player, the room, the mics you're using is right and it suits the song. If you're using a virtual drum instrument, make sure you spend some time going through the different sounds, the different snares, the different kicks, and choose something that works for the song. These drums sound ace. The overheads, we've got 107s, we've got some ribbon mics on the rooms. I believe these were Royer mics. And then we've got the kick, the snare, the toms, hat, all of that stuff, and it just sounds really, really good. Let me play you just a section of the drums completely raw. This is without any samples as well. Now that's obviously a great starting point. Those drums sound really, really good. They're nice and bright, they're nice and fat, but they are going to need some help in the mix, and that's where the samples come in. However, rather than just peppering a load of kick, snare samples all over the place, I'm going to be really particular about the samples that I want, and think about what you want the samples to actually do. Now, I'm loving the brightness from the snare in these tracks, but as this is a sort of like a rock country song, I want the snare to sound a little bit fatter. I can absolutely enhance that on the recorded live snare, but I'm going to choose some samples that help to do that. I want it fatter and a bit more roomy. So we're going to do, you load up your favourite drum library. There's loads of ones out there. You can use Slate, Superior Drummer, Addictive Drums. It's entirely up to you. I'm a huge fan of Slate drums, particularly the Chris Lord Alge, the CLA expansion for the one-shot samples. I probably wouldn't choose the CLA kits as a full kit if I was doing a programmed drums. I find them a little bit too processed. But for one-shot samples, I love these. These sound really, really good. So starting with the snare, what I'm after is something that sounds fat, but also something that I can bring the room mics up and just make it sound big and explosive. So let's see what we've got. It's a little bit too bright. Too bright. Too bright. That one's not bad. I like the crack from that one. It's got a really nice point to it. The steel one sounds really good. That's way too bright. That's too ringy. So I think that probably the two that I like the best out of these is I like the crack from this maple snare, and I like the fatness from this steel snare. So let's bring both of those in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the mix window and I'm going to boost the rooms up. Let's also get this FX track up as well. This is a print of a Sony reverb unit that CLA uses that just sounds really, really good. Okay, so we've got the snare hit points now converted to MIDI notes in the SSD5 window. I'm going to bring the volume up. It's quite low at the minute. I want this snare to really, really pack a punch. However, if I highlight them all and bring them all up together, we preserve the dynamics between them as well. So let's see what that now sounds like. Let's put that in and hear that, how that's sounding with the live drums. Really happy with that. We've got a little bit more fatness from the snare, and we've also just got that crack and a bit more size. So we're going to go with that snare sample. Now, when it comes to the kick, the ones recorded sound really, really good in the mid-range. There's a big bloom to them in that. So what I want from the samples is more point and more attack. And also, I want size. I want more of that room and reverby sound, because these drums need to sound huge. I don't want them tight and dry. I want them big and open. So let's take a listen to some kicks. Again, sticking with the CLA samples. You can use whichever ones you want. Let's flick through some. It's too dark. Not enough attack. Too dark. Too dark. Getting better. It's a little bit brighter. That one sounds good. I like the attack on that one. That one sounds good as well. Those two are probably my favourites in terms of the attack. These ones down here tend to be quite roomy. Let's take a listen. That sounds perfect. Listen to the point on the attack, and also that roomy sound that we're getting from it. That one sounds really good. Love that one. That sounds good. It's a little bit softer. Don't like that one. It sounds too much like a basketball. So we're going for that one. I think we'll bring this one in as well. I like the attack on that. So those are the two kicks we've got. Again, we're going to go to the mix window. Let's boost up the rooms, boost up that Sony reverb, convert the hit points to MIDI, and see what we've got. That sounds great. We're getting the attack that we need, and we're also getting the size from the rooms as well. So here we've got the kick room. We've also got the snare room. Those are the only two samples that we're adding. Let's take those samples out just so we can hear a comparison without. So the difference is massive. The kick especially just sounds so much bigger and grander with that sample added. And the snare, it's got the nice crack to it, but we'll lose that weight from them. Right, let's now move to the mix session, and we'll see what these drums sound like once they're mixed. Okay, so now we're in the mix session. Let's have a rundown of the crucial things that are happening to these drums to really make them pop. So we've still obviously got all of the live tracks, and then we've got our samples. So we've got the kick room sample here and the snare room sample here. I did decide to add a tom room sample because there's like a tom breakdown a little bit later in the song. That just helps them out. That's something you can do, you don't have to. I didn't replace any of the other tom hits throughout the song, just that one breakdown section. But anyway, let's have a look at some of the processing. So with the overheads, we've got a lot of EQ, mainly lows and highs. Big fat lows here to bring that kick out, and also some highs to make the cymbals nice and shiny. But what I also find is these low boosts also help the snare. I want the snare really fat in this mix. A little bit of compression as well. Let's take a listen to those two tracks together, because the overheads honestly are probably like 80 to 90% of the overall drum sound. Those sound incredible. They give a really great overall picture of the drums. And then the spot mics, everything else is just there to augment it and to supplement it. Now we've got the kick in and the kick out mics. Those are the live recorded mics, but we've also grouped in this kick room sample as well. The kick in has got a ton of top end on it just to help that attack poke through. The kick out has also got quite a decent chunk of highs as well. I find the kick out mics are really woofy in the mids. So we're taking out a load of boxiness in the mids, adding a bit of compression just to help the snap. And the room kick has again got a massive boost at around 5k. That is mainly to bring out the room sound that's baked into the track. Let's just take a listen to that. Take off the EQ and the processing. It's just so unexciting. That EQ really brings out some shine on the kick. It's going to help a lot. Now when we move to the snare, we've got the top mic and the bottom mic, and then our room sample. The top mic is getting some tape saturation and some EQ. Again, massive amount of low end. I want the snare fat, but we're also adding a huge amount of tops as well, just to help bring out the crack, some compression, also helps the snap. The bottom mic is also getting a good chunk of EQ, particularly lows. The bottom snare mic has some kick coming through it, so we're not going to filter that out. We're going to use it. Let's just take a listen to what those sound like. So the EQ is making those snares sound really, really fat. Let's just take all of the processing off as a comparison. Just sounds so boxy and unexciting by comparison. Then when we add in the room snare, we have some EQ here, but it's a lot more subtle than the processing on the other snares. We've got some top boost around 5k, we've got some lows, and that's it. We've got some compression, but it's parallel. This has taken about 10 dB off, but if you notice, the mix knob's all the way back to 20%, so I'm only blending a little bit of that really compressed sound in. Let's take a listen to that snare. Sounds really, really great. Let's take the EQ off just so you can hear. As you can hear, the EQ is just adding that top end sheen, and the compressors just helping bring out a bit more of that room sound. Put all those three snares together, what we have is this. That's a great snare sound. Now, the other thing that's worth mentioning with the drums is some parallel processing. All of the drums are going through this Crusher track, which is essentially just my parallel compression. We've got a little bit of EQ, just adding some top and bottom. This is a transient designer by Slate, just helps bring out a little bit more attack in the kick and the snares. And then we're going into this SSL bus style compressor. We're smashing this really, really hard, about 10 dB. We've got the ratio on 4:1. And then we're blending this into just where sounds good in terms of the drums. The other thing we have is some reverb, courtesy of this Bricasti room reverb. This is just set on a medium room, fairly short decay time, about 600 milliseconds. And the tracks I've got going to this are the room mics themselves. Those are going to this BM7, and then the snare room is also going to the BM7. All of these individual spot mics, those aren't going to it. It's just the snare room and the room mics. Now, the reason that I'm doing that is because I'm using this reverb to extend the room sound almost. It's a very, very different sound to putting your close mic kicks and snares through a reverb. That has a sound, it's quite dated, it's kind of classic in the 80s and stuff like that, but that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm wanting a natural drum sound, and I just want to extend the rooms. So that's the reason I'm sending the room track through it, but also the room snare. Let's just toggle these on and off so you can hear it. So we'll start with the Bricasti reverb, we'll start with it on, and then I'll toggle it on and off as we're listening so you can hear what it's doing. So we noticed that particularly on the snare, it just helps to make it sound a bit bigger and like it was in a bigger room. But crucially, the short decay time just makes it get out of the way, so it's not taking up a ton of space. Now let's go to the Crusher and see what that's doing. Again, we'll start with it on. I'll toggle it on and off as you're listening. The most noticeable thing with this is the attack and the punch from the drums. When we take it off, the drums just sound softer and they don't hit quite as hard. Once it's back on, we get more of that point, and it also helps to boost up some of the reverb in the kick, which I really like as well. So now let's put the drums in the context of the whole mix, and you can see how they're contributing to that overall sound.
This is the moment that I take control. I ain't never taking no for an answer. Come along, no dark cloud. I'm shining now. Turn me on, got me singing a song to the beat of my heart. Come sing it, bring it down. Tough, gotta live and I cannot resist. Your name on my lips, come sing it, bring it. Sing it, bring it.
Those drums sound perfect for the song. The big, the fat, the drive, those songs sound perfect for the song. Those drums sound perfect for the song. The fat, the big, the help drive the rhythm and keep held. Those drums sound perfect for this song. It's that kind of rocky country vibe, so they sound big, they sound fat, and we're not using tons of samples. We've got a great sounding kit to begin with, courtesy of Steve Barclay over in Nashville. But then we're using the samples sparingly to just add whatever's missing in context of the mix. And approaching your drums this way by getting the best possible sound at source and then using your samples sparingly is almost always going to result in a much better final mix and final sound than just recording something and then trying to fix it later by adding loads of extra samples and it just all gets in a mess. Now, if you're a singer-songwriter yourself or you're in a band releasing music, then I've got something that you're going to want to check out, and chances are you're probably not doing this. In order to access opportunities such as radio play, Spotify playlists, to get on blogs, interviews, magazines, your EPK is very often the thing that you will send out and your first impression that you're giving to the people who you want to listen to your music and give you an opportunity. And if your EPK sucks, then the chances are that as soon as you send it out and they take a look, within the first 10 seconds, they're going to delete your email and not even listen to your music or give it chance. Your EPK is that first impression that gets your foot in the door and even gives you a chance of getting your music heard, even if it's just for 30 seconds. So it needs to look professional, it needs to be appealing, and also have all of the relevant information that's needed as well. Now, to help with this, I've created a template for artists like you to design an EPK that looks incredible, it looks professional, it's formatted in the right way, and crucially, it contains all of the relevant information that you need to get on. And best of all, it's completely free to use and super quick and simple. You can have your EPK ready to go literally within minutes. So stop letting a lackluster EPK ruin your opportunities of getting booked for bigger and better shows, getting on the radio, and also getting access to all of the opportunities that are going to help you promote your music. The link to get this free EPK template is in the description below. Go and check it out and start using it now.